Welcome, everybody, to the Sales Copywriting Content Marketing Hacks podcast. This is episode 108. Last week was 107, but we called it 106. So we're skipping 107 because we actually have 107 episodes. So this is episode 108 because I say it is. And I'm your host, Jim Edwards, along with my co-host and podcast producer, Mr. Stu Smith. Welcome to the show, Stu, even though you were here all along.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I actually called last week's podcast 106B.
Oh, okay.
So we could call this 107 if we so choose.
Well, if you want to go back and edit it, it can be 107. I will leave it to your expert tutelage. I just want to let everybody know I am fresh out of the joint again. I am fresh out of Facebook jail again. The second time, it only took me 2 seconds of live video to be thrown into Facebook jail for not 7 days, not 5, not 6, not 7, but 8 days. I was in Facebook jail. So there you go. Somebody just asked, what brand of markers do I use? I have no idea. I get them off of the Amazon, the small business killer. So this is the art line. I think I use the Expo for the other stuff. I use whatever I can get my grubby little mitts on. So I got to keep this clean. I got to keep this kind of low key because I really don't want to go back to the joint again. It's getting towards spring. It's one thing to spend winter in jail as men do, but I'd like to spend the spring and summer out in the fresh air. And to overcome that roadblock, potentially, of going back to Facebook jail, I have certain things I'm going to be doing a little bit differently. But that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today on the podcast, Stu?
Well, you know, it kind of is related to what you were just talking about. It's about avoiding roadblocks.
Okay.
So the actual topic is this: roadblocks can become internal problems. For instance, most roadblocks can be expected, such as regulations, rules, even Facebook jail, computer issues, failing to prepare, having a backup, learning the rules, or procrastinating deadlines make these internal problems. Some people call them roadblocks. Actually, it's because you did not prepare properly.
Well,
most of these roadblocks are foreseeable. That's all I'm saying. Not all of them are. Most of them are.
Okay, so let's take a quick step back first, because we need to do a little definitioning here.
Sure.
Oh, I just made up a word, definitioning, like conversating. Let's get a couple definitions. All right, so this is you. This is your big egg head. All right, you and the general you, not Stu.
Thank you.
I got the egg head too. And this is a roadblock. Now, if you notice, a roadblock is external to you. Typically, a roadblock is something outside of you. It's, if you even imagine you're driving in your car and you come to a roadblock. A roadblock, it's something external to your car, is keeping you from moving forward. Now, how you react to that roadblock, at that instant, everything becomes internal. Your reaction to that roadblock is internal. Now, me, I externalize the internal stuff with a stream of curse words that would probably make a sailor blush, even used to. And the key, though, is to understand that an external roadblock does not have to become an internalized problem. That's the part that I want to talk about. And you talking about preparation and stuff like that, I think is really important as well. Being prepared. Maybe you can't prepare for every specific thing, but you can certainly prepare the way in which you react to roadblocks in advance. You can mentally rehearse, how am I going to react to something if it happens? So the big thing is not to let external roadblocks become internal hangups that handicap you for life. Now, I'm going to preface everything that we're about to discuss by saying that neither Stu nor I are a qualified professional in mental health, veterinary science, legal, tax, or spiritual matters. We're just two guys talking about stuff because you bothered to show up and listen to us. So we're talking from experience, not from degrees or. So we're not qualified to diagnose anything or, give you really any advice other than push-ups can give you a big chest. So there you go. So Sharon just put something in the comments. Those of us who are alive, is who here anticipated COVID-19? And the answer to that is nobody anticipated COVID-19 specifically, but there are certain things that you can make a decision. I mean, COVID-19 became a roadblock in a lot of respects.
Sure.
But it has now become kind of a problem where people are starting to internalize a lot of things that have come about because of COVID-19. But Stu, we're not going to talk about that specifically right this second, but what would you have done knowing that there was a possibility of something like COVID-19 or some sort of an extended event, whether it be economic, weather, social unrest, any type of thing that could have happened? What kinds of things could people have done to at least be prepared for this roadblock or to keep this roadblock from totally derailing your whole life?
Well, I mean, I think preparing for moments when you lose power, you can't go to the grocery store, all these little things are ways to prepare for general roadblocks.
Okay.
Right. So I basically reassessed everything that I have been doing for decades, preparing for that moment when I have to grab everything that's important to me, put it in a car and haul butt quickly. Now, obviously I didn't have to do that, but I'm prepared for that situation.
Right.
Right. If that ever happens. Now what I had to do is say, okay, I have to limit my time with people. I can only leave my house to go to the grocery store. So it was a series of just stockpiling of stuff that I had already had ready to go, a big pantry full of stuff. I probably could have stayed grocery shopping free for 3 or 4 weeks before I had to go start hunting for food. Right. But I am prepared to do that as well. So there's a system of things that I have done over the years that allow me to be flexible when that situation arises. Right. Now, so, as far as my business, my online business, I was very lucky that we obviously didn't lose power. I was able to continue business just as I've always done, right? In the basement, my own basement. So
the big thing to me, because this is a huge topic. I mean, this is and
very big.
I didn't think we would.
I'm going to define it down a little bit for you after you're done here in a second. But.
Okay. So the big thing is that an external roadblock, the biggest thing you want to do is make sure that doesn't become an internal problem, because as soon as it becomes an internal problem, as soon as you internalize all this stuff of, usually internalizing in terms of blame or giving up or hanging your head or just feeling disempowered, as soon as that takes hold of you, the temporary external roadblock or the external roadblock that everybody's dealing with all of a sudden becomes something that can debilitate you and handicap you and make you just, it'll cripple you. And so there's really two parts to reacting to a roadblock. And the first part is just general preparation. And then the second part is your reaction to it. And you can control both of those. You can control your general preparation, which typically comes down to physical and mental preparation. So physical preparation is saying, okay, you know, a great example for dealing with this pandemic or other stuff like that is my Mormon friends, who basically, as part of their religion, are encouraged to have a deep larder. Like they're supposed to have a year's worth of supplies on hand at all times. And one of them was telling me about that years ago, and I said, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And so I adopted that mindset years ago. So physical preparation also can be your body. If your body is in good shape, you're hydrated, fed, well rested, you're in good shape. Stu talks about, you know, you're in good tactical shape if you could drag family members out of a burning building, if you could carry them, you know, to safety. So that registered with me, and I was like, okay, I need to be in that level of shape. That's preparation. So being prepared physically, being prepared financially, being prepared, you know, and financially doesn't mean you're financially independent, but it could mean that you have enough cash on hand that if things went to crap, the power went out, and you had to go to the store, and the only way you could get stuff was cash, you've got cash to actually buy stuff. It's just little things like that. The other thing is reaction. But if you are physically prepared, mentally prepared, then it makes your reaction to what happens easier and smoother, because you're not sliding into panic mode. You know, even the example of being in the car, and let's say there's a big accident on the highway, and it's your way back from it, but you're going to be stuck on the highway for 6 or 8 hours. Well, if you've got some energy bars, if you've got some water and some things to keep the kids entertained at all times in the car, it goes from being an ordeal that lasts all day to, hey, it was kind of fun and we were camping on the highway. Just little things like that is and I guess the third part, general preparation along with that is just anticipation. It's anticipating what could happen. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, when everybody was scrambling for masks, I had plenty.
Me too.
Why? Because I just did. Because there are certain things that you're ready for. You know, we have chickens. I have to clean out the chicken coop. You don't want to be around that kind of stuff without a good N95 mask. But then you think about, okay, I need it for that. I probably ought to have it in case other stuff's going on, in case there was some kind of an exposure event. So it also, preparation comes anticipation, education. What could happen? Also learning from the past. Look at stuff like even your computer. Do you have a daily backup off-site going on of your computer? Are you using Carbonite? Are you using one of these other ones? It costs you 150 bucks a year to have your computer backed up off-site every single day. Do you have an on-site backup? You know, do you have an external hard drive that is connected to your computer that is backing up every single thing that you had, that if something were to happen, you could not even grab your computer, but all you could do is just come grab that little hard drive that they're teeny tiny now, like a 2 gigabyte hard drive is that big.
Crazy.
You know, but the biggest thing is, as soon as it goes from being an external roadblock that you're looking for ways to go over it, under it, past it, negotiate it, adapt to it. As soon as it goes from that, where it's external and I still have control over myself, that it translates into an internal problem, that's when you're screwed, because that's when you start giving up control and giving up your power. Now, I've talked a bunch. Stu, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue, actually, because when you start thinking that everything is falling apart all around you and that the world is against you because you didn't prepare properly, basically. That's when it becomes bad. In fact, since this is more about sales copy and content marketing than it is doomsday prepping, what I'd like to do is share with you a perfect segue for today's time with Jim, right? We started off with the 6-word challenge, 6-word story challenge, and now we're going into avoiding roadblocks. Let me just share something with you, because I got inspired by cruising the Facebook group, Sales Copy Content Marketing Hacks Facebook group, and I came up with 2 things today, right?
What the hell is that in your hand?
Oh, it's a little dumbbell.
Okay.
A little stress dumbbell.
Okay. All right, cool.
I just play with it. So let me just share this with you.
Okay.
All right. Share screen.
All right. I'll flash it up there when it's there.
All right. All right. So I wrote an article, made a Facebook post. This is an Instagram post as well. Are your struggles really roadblocks or internal problems? And I just talk about it as a recruit would have to assess some of these issues, right? But here's an article I wrote, and I used the 6-word story behind it. Struggling recruit, discover Stu Smith Fitness, crush everything. And I blended it all into one document, basically. And this is the article that I write about all these little things that are obvious to everybody. There are clear physical standards when you are going into the military, right? That there's no gray area here, right? You missing those, that's your fault, right? Assess yourself, and I give these little tips to, go through all this process, work on becoming a better athlete, understanding training, one more thing, here's some more things on this. But I even sold an article on the same topic, how to avoid roadblocks in the enlistment process. So think about it as your customers, your clients, your market, your avatar. Where are their roadblocks? And how are ways for them to understand there are roadblocks and then there are internal problems? So for instance, in here, you need to know what each branch offers if you're a recruit, right? There's hundreds of jobs and you should do some research. One of the very first things that you will see on any military recruiting site is first step is go talk to a recruiter. And I say, that's not right. Your first step is you should be prepared when you go talk to a recruiter and understand that there are medical disqualifications, legal issues, academic issues, height, weight standards, physical standards, age limits, citizenships, others from tattoos and piercings and all that stuff. So I break down all the little roadblocks that people think it's an institutional problem that is out to get them, and say, no, not really. It's because you didn't do your research. So that is how I defined the whole institutional or roadblocks versus internal problems.
Can you throw the URL for that article into the comments?
For the enlistment one?
Just the articles that you showed, article that you showed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the biggest thing is when we're talking about sales copy and content, a lot of the times roadblocks, another way to express that is objections. What is the thing that if we're talking about content and copywriting, it's what is the thing that your customer believes is holding them back, whether they're prepared or not, whether they're ready or not, whether it's their fault or not, doesn't matter. When it comes to selling to people, your job is to help them over, under, around, or through their perceived roadblocks, to overcome their objections. And the better you can do that, the more sales that you're going to make. And from a sales and copywriting perspective, it's never their fault. Now, Stu will tell somebody it's your fault. It's one of the few areas in the world where, from a selling people stuff perspective, it's okay to do that. But as far as we're concerned, it is never their fault.
That is true. It's part of my training. I'm a coach / instructor sharing some information to a student that needs to understand a little bit more initiative is required in this journey.
Right. But you can gently tell people, here's how to anticipate the potential roadblocks you may face. And then you can tell them all the stuff. And if they don't take your word for it, they go, wow, that was in the article. That was in the video. That was in the training. That was in the course. So, there you go. Vicky says, random question. How long does it take Stu to write an article? How long does it take you to write an article with or without a wizard, Stu?
I usually can do it in under an hour. 30 minutes if I'm really rolling. Yeah. If I have to do a little more research, sometimes there's some studies that I have to look through. It can take a little more than an hour, but on average, less than an hour.
Okay. So the links to those are in both spots now. Everybody can see that. So I think that's, when we say, far be it from me to worry about offending people, but, you got to be careful when somebody hits a roadblock of saying, well, the reason you hit that roadblock was because you failed to prepare. That is a risky thing to do. And from sales copy perspective, one of the basic rules is it's never their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. There's always an enemy that is withholding information from them, that if they just knew the secret, if they just knew the way, the place, the method, the tool, the software, the source, the whatever it is, then they'd be able to get the results that they want. I'm not making a judgment call on that one way or another. We're here to sell people stuff. And I've always operated under the premise that I can't help them if they don't buy from me. So I always sell them what they want, but I include what they need. That's always been my thing. So I've never had I've never sold anything that I wasn't able to sleep at night, because I was giving it my best and giving them what they needed along with what they wanted. But from the standpoint of, any kind of roadblock that you encounter, whether it's a physical roadblock or it is a roadblock of not having a particular skill or not having access to a particular community or person or coaching or some kind of resource, the key thing with that from a personal perspective is to not beat yourself up over it, to say, okay, this is what's blocking me right now. What do I need to do to get around it? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to meet? Who do I need to hire? What resource do I need to get me past this, over it, through it, under it? And if you operate somewhere along the line, I picked up the mental attitude that if anything's going to change, it's up to me to do something about it. Nothing is going to change with me sitting on my butt. And the other thing that I've always been able, and I know where this came from in my youth, but my attitude's always been, however long I think it's going to take to overcome this that time is going to pass whether I do anything about this or not. And so I'm going to start doing this now so that when that time passes, I'm going to have the result that I want, not still sitting there hoping for the result. And I got that attitude from, I was really sick as a kid. Over a 4-year period, I had all kinds of cancerous growths in my sinuses. I had like 10 or 12 major operations, had had this cheek cut off the bone twice. All kinds of just crazy stuff. When I started the 7th grade, I was 4'10" and weighed 63 pounds.
Oof.
So the point is that, when you're a kid and you're going through all that stuff, at least for me, I developed the attitude of someday I'm going to be better and I just need to get through this the best I can. I felt, and I found different ways to feel in control. One of the things back then, had to get a bunch of injections, and the nurses were like, okay, here you go. And it's like, wah! And you got an arm the size of these 4 fingers. And I said, whoa. Why don't you let me do that? And they're like, what? You're 10. I said, let me push the plunger in so it doesn't feel like my arm's on fire. And actually persuaded nurses. They would never let you do that now. Yeah. But back then I was giving myself my own injections. They just let me do it at a pace that it didn't hurt that much. And, but somewhere along the line, that's where I got the attitude that I can control stuff if I just control it. And I can always control my attitude. I can always control my actions. And I know that this too shall pass. And I just need to get through it. And because the time is going to pass one way or another. So, and then it was funny, years later, I heard Patton's quote, if you're going through hell, keep going. And that really resonated with me. So you can't internalize stuff that's going on outside of you. And the other thing, this is another attitude that really helps, is that, yes, I know we live in a time where to some degree it seems like there's a double standard for some people. The rules don't apply to a small select group. It's always felt that way, though. I know that it's getting a lot of play now that, there's double standard and hypocrisy and all this other stuff. I hate to break it to you. That's human nature. Yeah. There's one set of rules for us and there's another set of rules for some people. The thing you got to understand is that pretty much when it's raining on everybody. And you can curse the rain, but some people are going to put on their rain gear and go work out, or they're going to put on their rain gear and go out and play, or they're going to put on their rain gear and do whatever they got to do. So you can sit in the house umbrella, or have an umbrella with you at all times like they do in England. And have an umbrella. If you really want to be prepared, have an umbrella with a sword in it or a shotgun in your cane. I mean, come on. Well, I digress. But I think that's the other thing, is that you want to sit and have your little pity pot over the fact that this is the standard, this is the rule, this is the thing. I hate to break it to you, but it applies to pretty much everybody. If there's a business regulation, pretty much, unless you can bribe the local officials, this is the business regulation for everybody. So instead of bitching about it, figuring out a way to make money from it. That's how I made most of my money over the years, is seeing a roadblock that was stopping a whole bunch of people and figuring out how to build the bridge, either through knowledge or software or the mechanics or all of the above.
Yep. All it is being able to foresee a problem and then have a solution for that problem. And that's all I did as a coach writing these articles. I have seen all these issues, plague people over the years. And I just kind of created this laundry list of be prepared for this, be prepared for this, be prepared for that. And that's right. Kind of the tone it is. It's not saying you're stupid if you don't do this, you need to listen to me. It's just more of a coach's perspective on be prepared. Now, I will say this, while I was writing these articles, I thought of you, and
oh shit.
I paralleled my whole writing sequence. When I was in my mindset of writing these articles, I said, Jim's in Facebook jail. What did he do?
Nothing.
To work around it. No, that's not
innocent
true.
bylooker.
No, I don't care why you're in Facebook jail. What did you do when you were in Facebook jail? Right. You figured out a way in less than 24 hours to be up and running on all other methods that had nothing to do with social media. You bypassed the whole social media animal on live broadcasting.
Yeah.
This wasn't something that you necessarily invented, but you figured out the way. I was like, oh, why don't I just do it this way? Right. And you figured it out. So I kind of used that when I first saw that roadblock story, and I can't remember where I found it, but anyway, it was an interesting story topic for me. to kind of apply to multiple situations, but as well as come up with an education piece for my audience, but also just internally for my business to do the same thing that you were doing, was to have that ability to still do your podcast, even if you can't go live on Facebook.
Right. And I think the last thing, and then we'll wrap this up, is when you encounter a roadblock or there's something that's stopping you. A lot of people have the all or nothing mentality, like, okay, well, when they finally get up off their butt and they're going to try and do something about it, it's like, if this doesn't work, this is it. This is the end of this is the end. This is the end. If this doesn't work, this is the end. My attitude, and I would encourage you to, okay, if this doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. That doesn't work, I'll try something else. I'll try something else, try something else, try something else, until I find what works and what's going to get me past. Because, and I know this sounds, I don't know how it sounds, but I find that the worse the problem, the more excited I get, because I know that when we do find a solution finally, we'll be able to charge more for it. I'm serious. The bigger the problem, the more valuable it is, and the more valuable the solution, and the more that we can charge for it. That's, I mean, I'm like, hey, this sucks. Nobody's going to figure this out. So when I figure it out, everybody's going to want the solution. You know? And that's a big deal. So don't let roadblocks discourage you. Have them get you really, really, really excited. You can always, there was a guy, I'm going to stop with this. When in West Point, which is not far from here, which, by the way, West Point is the birthplace of Chesty Puller.
Oh, I know.
3-star general in the Marine Corps, who should have been the commandant, but he got screwed in the end. Politics got him.
5 Navy Crosses.
Yep, 5, the most, or tied for the most of anybody. And he never got the Medal of Honor, though.
Yeah, I don't understand.
So anyway, just a little background history. They were building the bridge in West Point, and no, they were building the bridge in Yorktown, the York River Bridge. They were redoing that, and for quite a few months, you either had to take a ferry or you had to go through West Point. So there was a guy, they did a story on him in the newspaper. The traffic light, the one traffic light in the middle of West Point, this dude had this, you know, those cafeteria style coffee dispensers that they're the big square ones, and they got the black thing on it. This guy turned one of those into a backpack, and every time the light turned red, there was no McDonald's there or anything, he would walk down and he was selling coffee by the cup, squirting. He had the cups and he had the thing, and he would pour you a hot cup of coffee while you were waiting at the stoplight, because all these thousands of people were having to go through West Point that normally weren't going through West Point. And he made a killing selling coffee. He literally turned a roadblock into a small fortune.
Oh, I love
by thinking ahead and being like, you know what, I can just walk. And then the county started giving him crap and other stuff like that. But I was just like, that is so smart to turn that roadblock into an opportunity. And that's what you can do with any roadblock, especially if it's not, if it's stopping you, it's stopping everybody else too. Figure it out and then sell the solution. But if you internalize that roadblock and turn it into a pity pot and wait for somebody else to solve it for you, then you're going to be the one paying the person who figures out the solution instead of vice versa. So there you go. Any final words, Stu?
No, I thought this was a fun exercise.
Yeah.
Not only on our being concise and coming up with clever phrases, but also applying that same kind of mindset to getting around roadblocks.
Absolutely.
It takes creativity. So.
Yep. Awesome. Well, great job, Stu. Great job, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Those of you, and you can't see my computer, but those of you over here joining us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope, thanks for joining us. Those of you who joined us live at jimandstewshow.com and ended up over at my website, thejimedwardsmethod.com/jim-and-stew-show. That's why we have jimandstewshow.com that redirects. We got a nice little crowd here. So very excited to have you all with us. I managed to go a whole episode and not get thrown off of Facebook. So that's a good thing. And we will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye, everybody.